Good to see you. You are about to embark on F1 Season 3. What sort of aspirations do you take into the season?
I think positively, it needs to raise our game a bit. Certainly, we started the year very well. I think up until Singapore, you can say it was a job very well done by the team and myself, but it fizzled out a bit at the end. Just for whatever reason, we couldn't get it together. We had an issue with the chassis, and then just getting your luck on your side. But when a season's so long, you have a dip in performance, and unfortunately, it happened at the end. If it had happened at the start, you would have forgotten about it and moved on. But I can safely say I've forgotten about the end of the year. Now fully focused on 2013, and the batteries are recharged. Just really eager to get back in the car and see how it's performing.
It's a difficult balance in Formula One, isn't it? The second half of the season, from not taking your eye off the ball because you're thinking about next year's car. Is that perhaps to blame? Do you think the team were thinking about 2013?
The team were always thinking about the year beyond, but I think our performance level was quite high. It was just in terms of luck and putting everything together. I didn't quite get on top of. Really, I think the main thing for our team, and the focus this year is starting better, because compared to the rivals that we race at the end that we were beaten, we're not out the blocks the same as them. And whether that's a conservative approach or whether we need to go more aggressive, that's something we're analysing at the moment. But we've got far more infrastructure coming in, with investment coming as well. So we need to keep the shareholders happy that they're going to support the team and go on a bit further with it.
Anthony, you're sort of in the unique position where you've done it, and now you're talking about it. That's quite fun, isn't it?
Don't do what I did, basically. No, I mean, he just talked about funding. It's important in Formula One these days. It always has been. But I was a culprit of a team going under, Super Aguri, and that's the problem for all the drivers and teams on the grid. You got to be watching the pennies, no matter who you are. And performance is important. If it's not there, then people start asking questions. But I think now in the position I'm in, it's a bit of a weird one. I started doing the commentary originally for 5 Live when I was doing the Friday driving for Honda, and I just sort of got into it, and it's never really stopped. So it's a lovely thing to have, we're working with Sky now, but I still look to my own racing as, that's the priority. I'm still a racing driver first and a commentator and analyzer second, but I do enjoy still going to the F1 races and watching guys like this in action.
We'll talk about your sports car commitments in a minute, but did you find that you took to the commentary broadcasting role? I mean, I know people think you do a good job in the Sky studio.
I still don't feel like it. Still feels weird every time I'm up there. To be honest, I've never done any training for it, so no. But it's great. I've got a great bunch of guys and gals to work with, and working with Sky allows you to sort of play with the technology as well. I really have good fun on the Sky Pad, and I think all racing drivers love analysing your own performances and performances of others, and working on that Sky Pad. So it's a great tool to look into things in more detail.
And it's an age-old cliche, isn't it, that you must measure up against your teammate. And in Nico Hülkenberg, you had someone who'd come up very quickly and won everything. There was almost nothing in it between you. It was so close in qualifying and in the points you were scoring throughout the year. So you must feel you did well against him.
Yeah, it did, and it was always going to be like that. I never feared Nico coming into this year, and why should I have? And it was always very close, and I think it was probably the closest driver pairing for most of the year. In qualifying practice, it was at some points it was half a tenth here, half a tenth there, and it's nice to see that in a team, and I think that's what drove the team on, and I think we picked up results because of that. And that in-house battle is always very positive for anybody, and I think the team bosses can actually sit back and say, well, our guys are doing a good job here. Not too much pressure. They were more than happy to continue into this year with both drivers in the lineup. Obviously, Nico's decided to go another way, but there'll be somebody else come in, and he is the opposition now, and we know what his strengths and weaknesses are, and we will come down on top of him, hopefully, because of that.
Does the teammate dynamic change in sports cars, where you want to be quicker than the guys you're with, but you've also you're in actually the same car? You've all got to look after each other, haven't you?
Yeah, it's a little bit different, I guess, to what Paul was just saying. I mean, in Formula One, you've got to be that team player, and you have got to work as a team to score the constructors' points. But at the end of the day, ultimately, you know, you've got to beat the guy that's opposite you in the garage. But in sports cars, it's a unique thing where sharing the same car, first of all, you're compromised on setup. You know, in Formula 1, the two guys on either side of the garage are working heavily on their own setup to optimize the car around their own driving style. But in sports cars, you've got to all come together, work together as a group for the best of the trio. Or duo, depending on what type of race you're doing, whether it's 6 hour or 24. And that's a real difficult task. And especially when you got, say, like my old teammate Alex Wirtz from Peugeot, you know, him being the height he is, the size he is compared to me, it was 0.5% of weight distribution change in the car, just from him being in there to me. So there's a huge compromise there from the start. And it does make it very interesting. You do have to be completely honest with them about your own strengths and weaknesses. Like Paul was saying, we've learned Hulkenberg's strengths and weaknesses. We know where he stands, and they can use that, I guess, to their advantage for this season in many ways. But you've got to be honest as a group together as drivers and really help each other out. And I think if you come into it with the Formula 1 mentality of, I must just be on top here, I've got to be top dog, I've got to get the car suited just for me and prove I can do the fastest lap times, you're not really going to end up winning big races by doing that. Yeah, you'll do fast lap times, but if your mates either side of you are struggling to drive the car and potentially crashing it as a result, then it's no good. So it's a very different way that you approach it. And I personally really enjoy it. And I think all the test driving days I did, you know, it would lend itself beautifully to becoming a sports car driver, because you were basically setting a car up at the end of the day for someone else as a test driver. So I've really enjoyed sports cars, and hopefully with Toyota this year, coming off the back of last year where they won a few races, hopefully this can be their year.
It wasn't a great year for you personally, was it? You were involved in a shunt at Le Mans through no fault of your own, and you broke your back and you missed the rest of the year. Are you back on course now?
Yeah, I mean, I've been driving again in Daytona, and for the 24-hour race that's at the end of the month, and it was great to get back behind the wheel again after so much talking about it. You know, with my back the way it was great that I had the Sky gig to rely on and fall back on, and to be able to, you know, it kept me sane at least talking about things and being in a paddock. But to get back behind the wheel again in a racing car anywhere around the world was great, and, you know, let alone Daytona. It's a fantastic race. They're great cars to drive, very challenging, and 7 months away from driving was, I think it was tough. It's tough for anyone, but to come back off an injury like that after breaking your back was, yeah, it was mentally quite difficult to deal with as well.
Paul, Anthony's sharing a sports car with members of your family, of course, the Franchitti clan. Perhaps a long way down the line, do you fancy sports car racing and Le Mans? It has an appeal, doesn't it, even to a young Grand Prix driver?
Yeah, it has something. I've got to say, I've not had something in me has not said that way yet. But, you know, driving those cars is probably one of the closest things you're going to get to Formula 1. What Anthony's doing, you know, the Toyota and the Audis are going to give you that speed. In the future, it's definitely something I want to do. I think, as Anthony said, your approach changes, and I think as you maybe get a bit older, when your aggression comes down a bit, maybe sports cars is the way forward, whereas just now, you know, I want a mad 2 hours race. You know, I want to be fully on the limit, going for it, and I'm in the position I'm in. I'm going to maximise that, and wherever it takes me in the future, you know, anywhere driving, I think, is the key, because, you know, I'm sure, you know, equally when I stopped in Formula 1, you know, your involvement in Formula 1 is not going to switch off like that. You know, you want to go into the TV work, you want to go into some kind of driving and be competitive and do what you're doing, because it's a wasted skill and it's a wasted knowledge after all this time, even to this point, to give that all away at this point in your career.
Guys, great to talk to you as always. I know you've got busy schedules, you're all over the place. Thanks for talking to us. Have a great season. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul di Resta, Anthony Davidson.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, fellas.